Okay, so you're thinking about jumping into the world of coding.
Yeah.
I get it. It's exciting.
Yeah.
But it can also feel like, you're staring at this giant wall of like options, right?
Absolutely.
Luckily, you brought this awesome text, Introduction to Learning to Code, to guide us.
Yeah.
So we're going to figure out the how, the what, and the who of becoming a coder.
And not just, the technical stuff, right?
Right.
We'll dive into the mindset and those all-important soft skills that can really, set you apart because, believe me, coding's about way more than just knowing a language.
Right. The text really nails this idea that there are tons of resources out there, and you don't have to, empty your wallet to get started.
Yeah.
I mean, just searching Learn How to Code opens up like a whole world.
It's like stepping into a massive library, but for coding.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting, okay?
Okay.
The text compares learning to code to learning a foreign language. You wouldn't expect to be fluent in Spanish after a week with Duolingo, would you?
Exactly. It takes, time and practice.
Right.
I love how they say it takes about, 3 months to comfort.
Yeah.
What do you think someone could realistically do after those first 3 months?
That's when you start feeling confident enough to tinker with code.
Yeah.
Maybe even modify existing projects, right? You're not building complex apps from scratch.
Right.
But you're getting a feel for the logic and structure. And you're starting to understand, which areas really click with you.
Yeah.
Which is huge for staying motivated.
Speaking of motivation, the text also mentions this idea of 10,000 hours to mastery.
Yeah.
It's a long game, not a quick fix, right?
Right. And while that number can feel daunting, think of it as a guiding principle, right? It's about consistent effort over time.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is that those hours aren't just about typing code. They include things like problem solving, debugging, even collaborating with others, which, we'll get into later.
Okay, let's talk about what you're actually going to code that what
Yeah.
part. The text throws out a ton of options. Phone apps, web apps, even stuff like customizing those big software as a service platforms.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the choices.
It is. And this is where understanding your goals is crucial, right?
Right.
Are you coding for fun, for a specific project, or maybe aiming for a career change?
Yeah.
Let's say you're thinking about a job in tech. The text suggests doing some research into popular languages.
Okay.
But then it throws out this really cool question. Do you go for a popular language with tons of competition?
Right.
Or a niche one with potential for growth?
Oh, the classic niche versus popular dilemma.
Right.
It's like picking a band to follow.
Yeah.
The one with 1 million fans or the one that's about to blow up.
Exactly.
But how do you even figure out which language is which?
That's where understanding the tech landscape comes in.
Okay.
For example, Python's super popular for data science and machine learning right now, meaning there are lots of jobs, but also tons of other Python developers out there.
Okay.
On the other hand, a language like Rust, while newer and more specialized, has a growing community and is known for its speed and security. So fewer jobs overall,
Right.
but potentially less competition and higher demand in certain sectors.
Got it.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the language itself. It's about where it sits in the tech world and what you want to do with it. The text mentions open source contributions. What are those exactly, and why are they important?
Think of it like a giant collaborative coding project. Anyone can join.
Okay.
You're working with others, learning from their code and contributing your own skills.
Okay.
It's a fantastic way to get real-world experience, build up a portfolio, and get noticed by potential employers. It shows initiative and a willingness to learn, which is huge in this field.
Right.
Plus, it's a great way to test out different languages and see which ones you vibe with.
So it's like a try before you buy for coding languages.
Yeah.
But you're also making something real and useful in the process.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads into this who aspect that the text talks about, which I found really insightful.
Yeah.
It's not just about you coding alone in a dark room.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Oh.
In the real world, coding's often a team sport.
Yeah.
The text emphasizes this idea of collaboration, which is where things get interesting, right?
Right.
You're bouncing ideas off each other, finding solutions together, and learning from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Think of it like a jazz band.
Right.
Everyone has their instrument and their solo, but it's the interplay that creates the magic.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And text makes a point that often you're not even coming up with the coding problem yourself.
Right.
It's coming from a user, a client, your boss. Someone who might not even speak code.
Exactly. It's about understanding someone else's needs and translating them into a solution.
Yeah.
They might say, I need to get all this data from this spreadsheet into a searchable database.
Right.
Sounds straightforward, but there were tons of decisions to make. What kind of database, how to structure the data, how to make it user-friendly. That's where those soft skills like communication and empathy become crucial.
It's almost like being a detective, right?
Yeah.
You're piecing together clues, asking the right questions, and figuring out the best way to approach the problem.
Exactly.
Which I guess is why documentation is so important, something the text really stresses.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there trying to decipher someone else's code and feeling totally lost.
Documentation is often seen as the boring part, but it's like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for yourself and anyone else who might work with your code later on. It's about explaining the why behind your choices. Not just the what of the code itself.
And the text even mentions this concept of self-documenting code.
Right.
What's that all about?
It's the idea that your code should be so clear and well organized that it practically explains itself.
Okay.
Think of it like writing a recipe. If the steps are logical and the ingredients are clearly labeled, anyone can follow it, right?
Right. But even the best written recipe sometimes needs a little extra explanation.
Yeah.
Like, why use this specific type of flour? Or what happens if you overbeat the batter?
Exactly. That's where comments and explanations within the code, along with separate documentation files, come in.
Right.
They provide that extra layer of understanding, saving everyone time and frustration down the line.
It's like the difference between assembling furniture with clear instructions versus just like a bunch of random parts.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And good documentation doesn't just help others understand your code. It can be a lifesaver for your future self, too. Ever come back to a project after a few months and wonder, what was I thinking?
Oh, all the time. It's like trying to read my own mind from 6 months ago. Sometimes it feels like a completely different person wrote that code.
Yeah.
But I guess that's part of the learning process, right? Speaking of which, the text talks about building a coding portfolio, which seems like a smart move, especially if you're aiming for a job in tech.
It's like a highlight reel of your coding journey, showing potential employers what you're capable of. And it doesn't have to be all about finished, polished projects. Even small contributions to open source or personal projects that demonstrate your problem-solving skills can make a big impact.
So it's not just about showing off what you've built,
Yeah.
but also highlighting how you think and approach challenges. Kind of like a window into your coding brain.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just technical skills. A well-rounded portfolio showcases your ability to collaborate, communicate, and think critically. These are all things employers look for, even if they don't explicitly say so.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like the difference between just listing your skills on a resume versus actually demonstrating them in action. The text also mentions that learning to code is a journey of continuous learning, which really resonated with me.
It's such an important point because in the world of tech, things are constantly evolving. New languages, new frameworks, new ways of doing things. It can feel overwhelming, but it's also what makes this field so exciting.
It's like you're always leveling up, always learning new spells and abilities. And the more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to discover.
What's fascinating here is that it's not just about keeping up with the latest trends. It's about developing that growth mindset that allows you to adapt to new challenges and embrace the unknown. It's about being curious and always asking, what else can I learn?
And that curiosity can lead you down some pretty amazing paths. The text talks about how coding can be applied to almost any field imaginable, from art and music to science and medicine.
It really is a superpower that can unlock so many possibilities. You could be creating interactive art installations, composing algorithmic music, developing life-saving medical software. The only limit is your imagination.
It's incredible to think about the impact the code can have on the world. And to think that anyone with the right mindset and a willingness to learn can be a part of that.
Absolutely. And the beauty of it is that there are so many different ways to get involved. Whether you're contributing to open source projects, building your own apps, or just tinkering with code in your spare time, you're constantly learning and growing.
So it's not just about the end result. It's about the journey itself, the challenges, the discoveries, the moments of aha where everything clicks into place.
And those moments can be incredibly rewarding. Whether you're finally debugging a tricky piece of code or seeing your creation come to life, it's a feeling unlike any other.
And it's a feeling that can fuel your passion for coding and keep you coming back for more. The text really drives home the point that learning to code is not just about acquiring skills. It's about developing a way of thinking.
It's about breaking down complex problems into smaller, manageable steps. It's about thinking logically and creatively. It's about seeing the world through a different lens.
And it's about being okay with making mistakes, because that's how we learn and grow.
Exactly. The coding journey is full of bumps and detours, but it's those challenges that ultimately shape us into better programmers and more resilient problem solvers.
And the text gives us some great tips for navigating those challenges, right? Like finding a supportive community and learning how to ask for help when we need it.
Those are essential. No one learns to code in a vacuum. Having a community of peers and mentors can make all the difference. It's a place to share your struggles, celebrate your wins, and learn from each other's experiences.
It's like having a team of adventurers by your side as you explore the vast and sometimes daunting world of code.
Exactly. And with the right team and the right mindset, you can accomplish anything. It's funny because the text started by talking about all these practical things like choosing a language and finding resources.
Right.
But it ends on this really inspiring note about the power of code to shape the world.
What's fascinating here is how the text subtly shifts our perspective.
Right.
It's not just about learning a technical skill, right? It's about recognizing the potential impact you can have as a coder.
It's like that line from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, but instead of web slinging, we're talking about, building apps that solve real-world problems or creating experiences that bring joy to others.
Exactly. And the text encourages us to think about the why behind our coding journey.
Yeah.
What are we passionate about? What problems do we want to solve? What kind of impact do we want to make on the world?
It's a call to action to not just be consumers of technology, but to become creators and innovators. And it reminds us that learning to code is just the first step. The real adventure begins when we start applying those skills to something we care about.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this feeling of excitement and possibility.
Yeah.
It's like we've just scratched the surface of what's possible with code.
And the best part is that the journey is just beginning. There's always something new to learn, a new challenge to tackle, a new way to use your coding superpowers.
So to our listener who's ready to embark on this incredible adventure, what's the one piece of advice from this deep dive that you think they should take to heart?
Don't be afraid to experiment, to make mistakes, to try new things. That's how you'll discover your passions and find your unique voice as a coder.
And remember that learning to code is not a solitary pursuit. Find a community, connect with others, share your struggles, celebrate your wins.
Because at the end of the day, coding is about more than just lines of code. It's about connecting with others, solving problems, and making the world a little bit better, one line of code at a time.
So go out there, explore, build, create, and never stop learning. The future of code is in your hands.